Good morning. Welcome to Gimpy's History Corner. Called Gimpy's because of these two guys, Ellis and Archie, next to Bowser at the Nintendo store near Radio City Music Hall in New York City last weekend. They love the Bowser. Okay. Today's video is about a book I have in my collection called Missing 411 in the eastern United States, unexplained disappearances of North Americans that have never been solved. The author is David Paulides, and he is a former policeman from California who became a writer and an investigator. While investigating another topic, he was in a national park, and some national park rangers came to see him and said, David, there's a bunch of missing people in our national parks that kind of get hushed up by the powers that be. And he began investigating, and he found it difficult to get information from the National Park Service, and went through all the Freedom of Information Acts and all the stuff you have to go through, and got some information, but not as much as he'd hoped. So he began researching newspapers across America way back into the 1800s and early 1900s. And he found that there's lots of missing people in the news for many years. And he's kind of a guy who looks for patterns. What's common amongst a lot of these cases? So here are some of the unique factors of the missing 411 cases, according to David Paulides. Most of them come from rural settings, from farms. A lot of them involve dogs. So a dog wanders off and the young child wanders off with the dog. And once they start searching, they bring in bloodhounds. And often the bloodhounds can't pick up a scent. Very mysterious. Sometimes the missing person is disabled or impaired, either physically or mentally. Not all of them, but some of them. Many of them come back, and once they find them, with a high fever. And doctors haven't been able to explain that, what's causing the fever in these missing people. Sometimes they're conscious, sometimes they're semi-conscious when they're found, if they're found at all. Sometimes they're not found. The police often start off with a kidnapping theory, but eventually they get rid of that because there's just no evidence that anyone else was in the area that could have kidnapped them. There seems to be a pattern that the most frequent time for these people to go missing is from 2 to 5 p.m. I'm not sure why that is, whether that's a playtime for rural kids when they go outside and to play, that's in the afternoon possibly, and that's when they wander off. They're often found in swamps or briar patches. It's kind of odd. Why would that be the case? Maybe they get in a swamp and get stuck and can't return home, or a briar patch, they get stuck in there and can't come back on their own. That's why they're missing. Berries, also, if you talk about briars, you got to talk about berries. They're also often found in berry patches. Another strange commonality is that they often have part of their clothing or all of their clothing removed. They're found naked or partially naked out in the woods. What? What's that all about? And another odd thing is that they're often found in an area that was previously searched. How did that happen? And it's not like they're cleverly hidden. They're right there on the ground or in a briar patch or along a path, and they just never saw them the first time. Where were they? Very strange. Okay, some other commonalities is that he found clusters Okay, this is the western part of the United States. Oh, up and down here, the middle section of the country where very few people live, don't have hardly any. And then the eastern side, this cluster right here is the most unusual. That's Pennsylvania. For some reason, Pennsylvania has the most missing people. What? Why would that be? What's odd about Pennsylvania? The Appalachian Mountains run through it, maybe, but heck, they run through West Virginia and Tennessee, Kentucky. I don't know. And authorities and volunteers conduct searches over the years. There's been so many missing people that they've organized official search party teams called SAR, Search and Rescue. They're usually associated with the local sheriff's department or a region. The Appalachian region has several SARs, Tennessee, North Carolina. There are 1,600 national search and rescue organizations nationwide employing 1,820 people. So it's a big thing. People go missing a lot. And these people get put to work and they have a system. They have a manual that says a child this age should only be so many miles from home, so concentrate your searches there. In Indiana, where I live, they have Indiana Canine Search and Recovery, based here in central Indiana. You have Hoosier State Search and Rescue is another one. And the Indiana Department of Homeland Security SAR training. If you want to join a search team as a volunteer, you can go through their training. David Paulides has a lot of books under Missing 411. One is called The Sobering Coincidence, and that's looking at not young people as in kids, but usually college students who live in cities near college campuses, and they do a lot of alcohol drinking, and they show up missing, typically found in rivers. Also, he focused on hunters, because hunters are in the woods a lot, and they come up missing. And he has a book on land, air, and water, and this is focused on missing airplanes. So, he's created quite an industry, Missing 411, David Paulides. He does a lot of stuff on YouTube, so you can catch him there as well. I don't hear a lot about missing people in the news today, but typically you got the problem with, what are they called? Child slaves. No, they're not called that. They're young people who are abducted for use as sex workers. There are lots of movies made about it. The Taken movies are about that. I can't think what the term I'm looking for here is in the news where they arrest people as part of a network or ring of people who abduct typically young girls, but sometimes boys, to go around the world working as a sex worker against their will. So David Paulides has discovered patterns, and I don't know. You live in a rural area, you put your kid out in the yard to play, you think they'd be okay, but they wander off, and you either never see them again or they find them miles away from home. And how did they get there? Big mystery. Okay, Missing 411, David Paulides. I recommend the book. It's fascinating, and he seems to be doing good work, so support him. Thank you. Have a great day.